I'm that other guy. I'm Lynn's person. Yeah, Brian. There we are.
He's my person. Hey, my person. Oh man, I just had how are you? Wait, look, your face is all clean and shaved, and you're not wearing a hat. Right? He's back. So, it's and like, you're happy
because silky smooth.
Oh boy, yeah, I had people go yesterday. You caught people's attention because you weren't in the same background. They're like, so where is he? He's not in the RV. We're like people reaching out to me, like, where is he?
gotta keep people guessing. Yeah.
I know. So changing it up is a good thing, Brian.
It's interesting about how people. It's interesting about how people notice, like, when I'm wearing a hat and I've got this, facial hair going on. It's like it caught their eye, but all the other times, nah.
I know. It's just so funny. Well, they're like, shoot, this isn't a rewind. Wait, shoot, this isn't. This looks different. It just caught their eye. So that was good market research we had going on there. So you may have to be in Wisconsin sometime in your car. I don't
know. Yeah. I guess I got to find, I'm running out of I just opened up the shutter and I'm like, okay, that's a new effect. Now I got to try to find different places where I can go or different setups, to keep people guessing.
Hi, Sandy.
Sandy
was on my show. And Brian's only learning this literally because, as you guys know, I just finished my show with Christopher. And so poor Brian doesn't know what's going on. I said, hey, we're going to have a guest over here. And Brian's so awesome. He just, oh my gosh, actually, he just showed up at the beginning of the show. So this is going to be super cool. And so Brian's meeting Chris for the first time. This is as live and as real as we can all be. Man? Christopher, this is Brian? My co-host, hey, Brian.
How are you?
And you're going to love him, Brian, because he is raw, real. He swears. He's just down to earth. I mean, he tells it how it is. And Excellent. That's the kind of people you love. So
perfect guy for our show. Perfect.
What's up, Brian? Good to meet you, man.
Nice to meet you too, Christopher.
Man, it's just so cool because the funny thing is Brian and we messaged the first time because he was wondering, what's my intention of being on your show, Lynn? Why should I be on your show? And I'm like, well, I used to sell lingerie and do all this stuff. And he's in the wedding planning situation. So I was like, I've dealt with, couples and things like that. And relationships for 30 years and blah, blah, blah. So we were just having such a great conversation. So let's do a show. And he goes, okay. So here we are at the January 1st, we started a show. And so
I've seen a few episodes. You guys are great together. I love it. When I saw the raw, I was like, cause mine's raw and unscripted. I'm like, oh hell, raw, real, and yeah. I love it.
So, Brian, would you like to tell him where we've been going? And I think after hearing his stories about his relationships, this is perfect time for him to chime in.
Yeah. So we've been on this journey over the past, this will be week number 4 on relationships. And when we were thinking about doing this, this topic, it's like the only way to, in my mind to unravel it was by weeks. And the first week was just to get the parameters straight in terms of a definition of relationships and then acquaintances. And, kind of like if you're looking at a bullseye, you got the outer side and then you get deeper as you get closer. And then the second week was all about likability. Last week was about trust. And this week is about respect. So to tackle anything this big is not something that you can do overnight. Especially
I love that. I love that. You break it down. That's brilliant.
Yeah. So now going forward, we're talking about, because we're moving into Valentine's Day, we're like, after you got all those implemented, now what's your relationship status? I mean, you've wasted all your time. No, not wasted your time, but you've invested your time. Yeah. That's what I want to say. You invested your time in all these elements. Where are you going from there? And unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, but my ex-boyfriend of 10 years, long distance relationships, been watching our show lately. So it's been interesting, but that was one of the things that was a problem, is that he's in Wisconsin, I'm in Montana, 10 years traveling. It's just got really hard. He'd prefer me being over there more times, and I want to be here by the grandkids. So, I mean, you got to realize, where are you going? What are you doing? So, I mean, he's family. I love him. I wish him the best and that kind of stuff. I mean, I truly loved him. It just, just when shit's not right, you got to move on with life. So, Like he said, I was going in a different way. I was just finally having my freedom after all the shit and marriages and stuff I've been through, to just say, I need people to see me, my intuitiveness and who I am. I was hiding it for freaking long ass time, and it just got tiring. So here we are.
Bam. Life is a journey, not a destination. That's the way I look at it. And going with that, I love how you break it down into steps. I look at things in terms of, things happen for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And in some situations, our relationships are for a season, and it may be a really long season in our life, but it's not a lifetime. And sometimes we have to have that perspective, and especially the confidence to be able to say, you know what, this isn't something that I'm willing to not necessarily waste, but again, it could be a waste of time. If you know that it's something that you don't want to do, and there's so many people out there that are so comfortably miserable or just completely miserable that they don't have the confidence or the wherewithal. What will I do? If I end this, then maybe I won't get anybody else. So they hang on to the little bit they have, and it just destroys their life, and they wind up with regrets later on in life. And like I was just saying on our previous show, and I'm known for it, all my social media posts usually say no regrets. And that's been one of my biggest things. So I love that. Yeah. I mean, like I said in the last show, my first wife, beautiful person, great person. I'm still friends with her to this day. My current wife knows her and everything else. But it wasn't going to be for a lifetime, and that's okay.
Yeah. Right. Well, it's just like with Ricky. I mean, he liked being late. And I mean, that's, to him, it's nonchalant. And it was something really difficult for me because, and I would give my words to my kids, I'd be here or there. Like I was 6 minutes late to my daughter's wedding rehearsal, and it was because of him. Not knocking him, but I'm just saying that's just his persona, And I'm like, it's like, Lynn, can you live with that? I mean, it would upset me. It would just take me off my compass because, I mean, he put me on a pedestal, loved me, anything for me. But that's the one thing he couldn't give me is being on time. And, like I said, that's just when that's so ingrained to me being early, and it gives me anxiety when I'm late, and, for a lot of different reasons. I mean, like I said, it's shit like that. You're either going to accept it and say, you can't bitch what you're going to accept, or move on. And so, I'm sorry, Ricky, if you're watching, but it's just the way it is. It's raw and real.
And I think it shows also too is that how you show up in life once is how you show up in life always, right?
Oh, I love that.
Because it's like, and I know that there's other, people that have commented about this, and have quotes, but good morning, Ernest. Thanks for being here. Is that, you see patterns over the course of time. And it's like, I'm sure that to him, being late is not anything new, right? Because that's a part of his being. And it doesn't mean that he's wrong. It just means that that's who he is. And it's a blind spot that somebody else pulls out of him, that it's like, that doesn't work for me. And unfortunately is that on one hand, if you stick with a person like that, you can't fault them for being who they are. But on the other hand, eventually you're going to have to come to terms with what the reality is. And that reality is that he's going to be who he's going to be. And it's a part of his, Tracy, thanks for being here. Good morning. Is that it's a part of his being for, not doing anything other than being late,
Right.
And Christopher, you were speaking to something that made reflect on one of the most heartbreaking experiences of my life. The woman I thought I was going to marry moved out of state down by Chicago. And that's when I became familiar with living analysis paralysis, right? Where you can't think your way to an action when your mind is so deep in thought. And, it felt like I was backed up in a corner where if I take a step, I'm taking a risk, but if I stay where I'm at, I'm not going to go anywhere. And it took that whole heartbreak to realize, number one, my self-expression was gone. Number two is that I wasn't taking any action. I burrowed myself in such a denial, and exactly what you said, as far as I don't want to rock the boat. I'd rather be in this space right now than to heartbreak and have to move out and all of that.
But you ultimately figure it out, right? I mean, it's like anything in life. I have a tattoo on my arm that says, "What doesn't kill me only makes me stronger." Yeah. And literally I got that about, let's see, my son's 4, so probably about 6 years ago. And I was going through a tough time emotionally and questioning and having, the things that we do in our life. And I went and got this on here because I was like, you know what? Every challenge, every opportunity in my life is designed to make me stronger. And when we have that perspective, like, okay, listen, this is going to suck. But I'm going to get through this. And I know that not in 3 months, but maybe in 6 months, I see the vision on the other side of this dust cloud is going to be fine. It's going to be okay. But I have to go through this. And what am I going to learn out of this? Often we look at it from a victim mindset, like, oh, what am I losing? And I see so many people, I help so many people with addictions or different other, bad habits and things of that nature. Once you pick that out and you decide to refine that and to become better at it, then you continue to grow and you can look at your next relationship and say, okay, listen, like for me, in my first relationship, I learned a very, very important lesson. Do not lose your individuality. You could become Chris and Tammy, but there's got to be a Tammy and there's got to be a Chris. Otherwise, you lose that sense of individuality. And you think about separating, then like we did, I didn't realize it as much, but I had to rediscover who I was because I had changed so much to make her happy. And that's something we should never do in any relationship. We should never really settle or compromise. I mean, compromise is good. But in situations like that, when we continue to work on ourselves, I'm sure you guys know this, then sometimes the people who don't continue to work on themselves, we kind of outgrow them. And that's a situation I've had in my experience quite a few times. I thought, okay, they're going to see me and do this. And then they're going to be like, okay, I got to do this with my life. And they haven't. And I get to a point where it's like, I got to go. I got to keep going.
Well, and it's like, as painful as those lessons are, where you don't know what it's going to look like and you're going to grieve and do all of that, there's evidence that shows up if you're really taking it seriously to, number one, never let it happen again, right? Because you have these new tools to work on yourself with. Number two is that evidence is like why that didn't work, right? You see it right then and there by how somebody made you feel, or what they didn't do, or their actions that they were going to take, that you just start to find evidence, and it starts checking off those boxes of, that this was a great thing, but I didn't see it when I was going through it.
Mm-hmm. That's
Chris,
a great point.
I want to thank you, Christopher. I want to thank you for being here. First, he was the first interview with Pamela Aubrey. I went on their show. That was my first. But now you're the first guest that we have on our show. So those are monumental things. So are you happy, Brian, that I brought him along? Is he great or what?
I've seen you online, Christopher, but first time meeting. So very nice to meet you.
Yeah, no problem. And I don't want to hog your whole show. She was like, oh my God, I can't believe we had our other show. And I'm like, well, I'll jump on there for a few minutes too, and just kind of finish out the conversation. You guys were talking about relationships, but no, I just love being around people and just love sharing, what it is I've got to say. And especially more important, like we were talking about with Clubhouse, I have definitely learned to listen more. And that's one of the benefits that I truly like to do, is just really listen. Whereas before I was more passionate about talking and kind of sharing and helping people. But now I've really gone back to the point of listening and taking more stuff in.
Well, and I've said it on our show several times, is that when people feel, and there's no magical moment in any conversation, but when people feel like they're heard, there's just that moment when they feel like they're heard, that you don't need to really say anything. You just need to be with them, right? Yep. You just need to, but it's one of the most priceless things to me when you're in an interaction with somebody, is like when they feel like they're heard and respected. It doesn't get any better than that.
It truly is. I mean, I love what you said, Brian, because I was thinking about this. I've always been like, how do I get to the root cause of a situation? How do I figure out what it is? Because so often we're dealing with the symptoms of stuff, right? Yep. The symptoms of things. And so when I realized that I could get to the root cause of something, that's been the brilliant part. And just having that self-awareness and having that honesty to be able to speak to ourselves in a loving, kind way, and to be able to move past some of those things that have limited us is great. And I love what you guys were talking about this week, being respect. I'm curious to see, is what aspect of respect are you talking about in relationships this week?
Well, Lynn, as far as respect, as far as respect, we talked several things about, you got your business respect, whether being on time or, basically we were saying trust and respect are like hand in hand. I mean, it's not one or the other, it's simultaneously, because if you don't have the trust and the respect, I mean, things, can topple in a really bad way fast. And that's the core of a relationship, is the trust. And, it was very good. Go ahead, Brian.
I mean, on Monday, we just started, on Monday, and then, we had a blooper show yesterday. So it's like we've just been starting to unravel, respect, and then moving into Valentine's Day and relationships. And I think it's such a massive topic, right? And I think that the best way, like, I'm grateful that you're on the show, but to tell stories about it, like where it shows up. and then the relatedness of that, because it's like, we can create something out of nothing, but the more heartfelt, of respect, where it's like, ooh, I've been in situations like that, is going to be easier relatable than if it's conceptual, right? Or if we're just talking in the open. If we have a specific example that viewers and anybody that's tuning in can resonate with, it's going to be they're going to be able to find themselves in that, versus we're just talking about something very conceptual and wide open.
So,
I love that.
So that's why I was loving the fact that you could come over here, Chris, because Christopher, I'm sorry, I love calling you Chris.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
The part I loved about having you come over is because I heard, you had several relationships, and even the pickle one was something very interesting. But it got to a point, and there was not a lot of trust in that one there. But
no pickle was had that night. No pickle was had that night. Let me tell you that.
Oh yeah, you should tell that really quick of what happened. But
man.
What I was going to say, catapulting from there, is obviously with the relationships and the experiences you had, there had to have been something that made you say, I'm going to go and try to get, be in a marriage again and having a child and stuff. Like, that's so stinking awesome. So I think you have so much that you can give to our topic right now in the fact that you should tell this pickle story and how you grew up from there, and how moving forward your relationship status, if you don't mind.
No. I love it. It's funny because I hadn't told that story in a long time. She's like, come up with a pickle story. And I'm like, geez, I get myself into pickles all the time. Let's talk about the one with the California Highway Patrol officer. No, let's not talk about that one. Yeah. So literally I was always, when I got divorced, I've always dated one girl at a time. I've never been one of those players or anything. And so after my girlfriend of 5 years, when I broke up, and I was 27 and I was doing really good. And I just said, you know what? I'm just going to start having fun. I was going through my bachelor's program. I think I was going through my master's program at the time. And so I was meeting girls at work. I was meeting girls at school. I was meeting girls at clubs. And so I'm like, you know what? I can date around a little bit. And so I have ADHD on crack. So my attention span goes blip, blip, blip. So, I mean, literally I bounce from one thing to another thing and hope I get it all done. And so I had made I made a date with two different women on the same night. It was about a half an hour apart of each other. And I didn't realize. I'm like, oh yeah, just come over to my house on Thursday night at 6:00, and not realizing that I had somebody else coming over to my house Thursday night at 7:00. So girl one was there, and I was like, okay, this is cool. Knock on the door. This is back in the old days. Where I was like, who's knocking on my door? I think I will open it. And I open it, and there's this beautiful brunette there. And I look back, and there's a beautiful blonde there. And I'm like, I did not. And they're like, Chris, what's going on here? And I'm like, oh, what are you doing here? She goes, you said we were going out tonight at 7:00. So it's 7:00 and I'm here. Who's that? And I thought about lying, and I was just like, that's Brittany. Yeah, I've been kind of, and then so long story short, they start talking and call me all sorts of names, and they leave together, and I get a whole bunch of fuck yous and all sorts of stuff. And I sat there with my dick in my hand and went, well, that was a stupid idea. And then a couple of weeks later, both of them called me individually and wound up dating them a couple more times, and it was all good. But from that experience, I never dated multiple women again. And then I realized that monogamy is beautiful, and finding that one relationship is beautiful. And yeah, I mean, it was all good. That was my pickle situation.
So, yeah. So then moving forward, you took more interest in having a relationship status and all that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I didn't. I've always been a freelancing kind of just fun at the moment kind of guy. And I've always enjoyed my freedom and my privacy and my ability to do whatever I want when I want. When I broke free from my mom back when I was 17, and then going through all the stuff I had to go through to kind of get where I was at this point in my life, I was like rolling. I had my house and I was doing really good. And I wasn't really ready to be tied down. But then I met my wife, or my girlfriend at the time, and it took 5 years. It took 5 years for her to kind of go, you're gonna put a ring on this hand? And I'm like, everything's good. We're happy. You have your life. I have my life. We live together. It's good. You have your bills. I have my bills. And so it was about, making that commitment. And at that point, I was afraid of what I was going to be missing out. FOMO, fear of missing out. Mm-hmm. And then I just took a hard, long look at my life and everything that I was looking for. And I'm like, what am I doing? What am I running from? Oh, I'm running from another situation where I might be in with my mom, where I'm going to lose my identity, or, my previous marriage. I started getting stuck in the things that I thought I might get trapped back into. But I'm like, Chris, you're a different person now. Now you can establish boundaries. You can have upfront communication and say, hey, this is my expectation. Here's what I expect. Here's how I'm going to roll. How are you going to roll? And is this going to work? And so we started talking about it. And I realized out of all the people that I dated, number one, she knew I was friends with all my exes and friends with my ex-wife and didn't have a problem with it. All my other girlfriends were like, why are you talking to them? I don't talk to my ex-boyfriends and blah, blah. And I'm like, well, did it end badly? Well, yeah, da, 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 da. I'm like, well, most of my relationships ended just because they ended. It wasn't anything foul. I loved them once upon a time and it's all good. And I wish them well. And if they need anything, I'm here, but I'm not going to go out there and sleep with them anymore. That's just not it. And she accepted me for who I was at that point. Well, she always has. I want to make sure I don't speak ill will about my wife because she's been amazing. And then got married, and then it was just, we had a lot of fun together. And then, it was just carrying on that tradition and trying to figure out about kids. And then we went through a lot of stuff in that, but I just wanted to share this. My coaching used to be primarily in relationships. So I love the discussion about relationships and communication and listening and all the different things that go into that. So yeah. So that's kind of like my story about that. Sorry, I got distracted when I was looking at the words. It says, I love to watch Christopher Rauch. And I'm like, that's creepy, Ernest. What's up, Ernest?
and Ernest comes out, try dating 16 girls at a time. That'll keep you busy.
Oh,
Ernest.
Wow.
You were dating 16 girls at a time? What was it, a harem?
Ernest, we're learning so much about you, Ernest. We're learning so much about you.
Yes, right. Hey.
Stalking Viagra or something. Jeez. So what have been in your personal experiences, relationships in regards to having that open communication at the forefront? Has that been something beneficial for you guys, or is that something that's created?
I just after that, I have kind of a pickle story, and then I'll get into that.
Yeah.
Is that?
Oh yeah, we want to hear it.
I do get a pickle story. Is that at the end of my relationship of 4 years, when I lived down and I moved out of state, right by Chicago, is that there was a moment that I just had to share with this person to say to them, it's just like, no matter what I do, I can't please you. And it wasn't easy to say, but I knew I needed to say it because I need to free my heart of that burden. And I knew that we were coming to an end, but at least I said my piece. And it's one of the most profound things that I've ever done, and I'll never forget it. But to just say that no matter what I do, I can't please you. And to know that we were done and I was going to be moving out and life was going to be different and heartbreak and therapy and stuff. But I wouldn't change it for the world, because it's what I needed to do for me to be free. But also, though, to be honest with that person, that it's like, hey, I've done all I can do. If you're not responsive to love or to, care or support and any of that, well, I'm tapped out in terms of what I can do.
Next. Bye-bye.
Yep.
Are you still do you have any communication with that person still?
No.
And
there was the one that replaced that. I mean, after a couple of years, I'm still going through therapy right now for other things, anxiety and depression. But my mind is back where it was before I met her, in terms of me being fully self-expressed, and you either like me or you don't, and I'm okay either way. That was my MO. That was my mantra before I met her in 2014. And I'm not going to show up differently than anybody. What you see is what you're going to get every day. And yes. I met this one woman after a couple of years after, and she had some bad situations in relationships, and she said she's not going to, be intimate before getting married. And I said, that doesn't work for me. I said that to her within the first month or two. And she's like, that she didn't agree with it. And I said, okay, so what are we going to do about this? Because I don't want to waste anybody's time. Right. And it kept going on and on and on. And then we had to revisit it again. And I said, from the very start, here's where I'm at. And we didn't do anything about it. Either we sever ties or whatever. But I said, here's where I'm taking a stand. And ultimately we ended things. We ended her. She ghosted me, which I learned that term. I didn't realize what that term was until after.
Hi, Pam.
And
hey, Pam.
Hey, Pam. And so it's one of those things where to just be honest and upfront about everything is so much better than to just kind of, I'm not going to share anything, or I'm going to just kind of beat around the bush a little bit. I'd rather be honest and upfront.
Shit, you guys at 55 now? and starting to date again. This shit is just for the birds. But the bottom line is I enjoyed having a long distance relationship because to me, I mean, I like my freedom. I mean, I like my space. I mean, I'm an introvert and people don't realize that in me. But I mean, I'm empathetic, I'm very intuitive, and so I need my energy back, when you're around energy suckers. So bottom line is like people don't understand that because they see me being a social butterfly, but the butterfly's got to go home every now and then and just, I just, oh yeah, right now. But I love just being around people where I don't have to talk, that they just know, you can feel the energy and just, you just can just be in that space and enjoy it, without words. That's really what I love. And people don't understand that if Lynn's not talking, something's wrong. No, I'm in my being, so it was just always hard for, Ricky or guys to understand that. So I always felt like when I make time to be in Wisconsin or be with him or whatever, and we'd spend a month, 2 months together, I could do it for short times, but and I haven't written down my list of what I want in a guy, but because I like my space too. I mean, I want somebody that's my companion, but I don't want to be the housekeeper. I'm not that. I mean, I did all that shit for my siblings and my kids growing up. It's like, that was torture to me. I'm not going to, I'm not that way. So, oh, my brother's widow, Trump being 60. Yeah, that happened.
Thanks for being
But
here.
yeah, there's not another one of my brothers around though, so I'm sorry for her. But I love you, Jules.
In a previous relationship, the one where I moved out of state, I had to deal with trying to read somebody's mind, or they expected me, or at least I.
Oh, isn't that fun?
They tried.
You should have known.
Yeah,
I shouldn't have to tell you.
Like when this person was
started on that shit.
This person was a teacher, and somehow, I'm self-employed, so I can work anywhere, anytime. But it was like I'm supposed to magically read somebody's mind to bring them coffee when they have their break throughout the day. Like,
no, man. If it don't flow, it don't go. If the shit don't flow, it don't go. That's just the way it goes.
And it was always set up in such a way where I had to feel pity. I had to feel like I needed to do better, and it was the opposite. Is that I was doing everything the best way I knew how, but somebody wasn't good at communicating, right? That's really what it was. And, it just wasn't the right person for me, but I felt like I did something wrong and I beat myself over it because I couldn't read somebody else's mind. And that's not fair to anybody,
Yeah, it's crazy, and just to give you guys hope, I was coaching somebody over the summertime. She was 69 years old. Her husband had been deceased for 16 years. She was a widow and had never really gone out and dated, had not done anything. And so one of the things she hired me for was to build up the confidence, and she said she wanted to date again. Mm-hmm. So at 69 years old, I told her, I said, you got to own your freak flag. She's like, I'm still, and she was like all embarrassed about it. I'm like, you have to be frank with me. You just have to be frank with me. The sooner you tell me what your freak is, I don't need specifics, obviously, but own your freak, whatever it might be. If you're 69 years old and you still want to get it on, you want whatever it might be, go for it. And she had a hard time, adjusting to that based on what are these people going to say? What are my church people going to say? I'm like, your church people are going to be like, hey, who was your coach? And what did you learn? Because you look really happy. You're getting some, and sure enough, she put herself out there on some of the dating sites for elderly people. And she's like, oh, and it was so funny to live vicariously through her and seeing dating at literally 70 years old. Right. And she, this guy was this, but I'm happy to say she met a great guy and they were in love, and they were like, and I was coaching them towards the end of the relationship, her. And she's like, okay, we've got it all figured out. He's going to stay in his house and I'm gonna stay in my house. And, he has a widow and I have a widow, and we're just going to, we just want, somebody to go to parties with and stuff like that, and to be friends and kind of be, a month later, she's like, I think we're going to say the L word. And it was beautiful. It was like, why hide it, man? shit, life is short. If you find the person and you feel like you're supposed to be with them, be with them. But again, one of the things, speaking of what you guys were saying, is have those upfront communications with her. I would sit there and say, okay, in order to protect yourself, because she's like, I don't want to lose myself in getting another relationship, because that's what I did in my first marriage. I said, well, then don't. I said, you have to communicate up front what it is that you expect, what it is that you need. I need 3 or 4 days at my house a week so I can recharge, so I can be the best for you. I need this time with my family, whatever it is. And what do you need? Because we're often saying what we need, but I always subscribe to the school of thought of seek first to understand, then to be understood, and say, okay, what is it that you expect out of me? Because to your point, Brian, thinking about, well, you should have known. How many times do we hear that? Or how many times have we heard that at work and everything else? It's about our expectations. And if we don't communicate those in advance, then it's on us if somebody doesn't get it. So I've had that situation. I've had people there, come on, Chris, you're smart. I'm like, I'm smart and I'm intelligent, but sometimes I don't see the things right in front of me. I don't see what is right in front of me. I'll see the 20 other things on the peripheral, but I won't see what's in front of me. So if I'm not doing something, or if I'm not meeting your expectations, you need to say, hey, Chris, listen, I know you love me and everything, but I'm not feeling like my needs are met in this spot. Yeah. Oh, geez. Wow. Thank you for telling me that. Thank you for not just resenting me for another 3 fucking years and then divorcing me later on. You know what I mean? Right. So we got to have those conversations, which is massively important. I think Pam had said something up here. She had commented on something. Pam is in the house.
Pam said, she said she felt the same way. Lynn. I'm not a big talker at home, and I could pretty much chill and do things myself. I touch base. Yeah,
and then Julie talked about being naked at 60 versus being naked at 40. She had a comment about that, I think.
Yeah, she said, oh wait, no, hold on. Yeah. She said, sorry. Naked at 40? LOL.
And one thing to piggyback, Lynn, go ahead. I interrupted you.
No, go ahead.
Is Chris, another thing too about that, the one that was intimacy, we could not agree upon that, is that I also saw that as a result of her previous bad relationships, is that she had lessons learned, but then she carried those on to me. And I simply told her, I said, please don't bunch me with all those other guys you had bad experiences with, because I had nothing to do with them. So please don't impose those lessons that you learned upon me that I have to go through added whatever, protocol or judgment before you're ready to be intimate with me.
Well, and Ricky said that to me. Don't think of me like your ex-husband and blah, blah, blah. But I was like, dude, what you did reminded me of my ex-husband. So now it becomes, forget that freaking past. Yeah. What you did right now is not acceptable to me. Yeah. And so you may be, you got to realize and own that and have that discussion as well. And Pam says here, I feel like it doesn't have to be the super complicated. You can just be real. And if it's the right person, you'll figure it out. Then again, I haven't been able to date in ages. I hear you.
Well, and how I've been trained, through some different programs and whatnot, is that ultimately after we grieve, like let's say a relationship ends, is that our brain is going to go in a vicious cycle, right? But the problem is that we're replaying the whole stream of events, right, looking for a different outcome. But the outcome is set in stone, number one. Number two, our emotions are attached to it. So ultimately, when we can get to a place of here's what happened, here's what I made it mean, but through the course of time, you're not going to be able to separate the chain of events from my emotion. That's why they're so pure and they follow you everywhere you go.
Mm-hmm. And what you learned out of it, when you look back, what did you learn? What can you take of that moving forward so it doesn't become history? Because history repeats. So until it's learned or it's changed the way you look at things. Well, and Tammy said something here.
Tammy said, I did learn to talk and let my expectations be known, but others don't believe me.
Yeah. Well, again, it's if you set up the foundation to be A, B, C, and D, and then, all of a sudden A, B, C, D, E, F, G come, you have to realize moving forward, what are you doing with that relationship? Is this worth? Should I stay or should I go?
Oh boy!
I just get up. I saw the guitars. My brother. Yeah, it's a trigger for me. My brother and his guitars. So I just thought of that. Should I stay?
Everybody watch out! Lynn's gonna start dancing. Everybody watch out!
I'm Latina.
Is-
I hear
is,
music. I'm
Working on our
good.
last interview, she had a twerking guy on there for it to make me laugh. So nothing would
Oh, he
surprise me.
knows that.
and then to further along something that Pamela said too is that it can be simple. And I think that one of the ways to make sure that happens is that you're always at the forefront of those conversations where I'm feeling such a way, I'm this, I'm that. You're always in touch with your partner, because otherwise what becomes complicated is usually not one occurrence. It's usually a series of occurrences that are not to a neutral place, or that you shared with your partner about what those are. You know, what happens is like all that buildup, like a piece of Velcro, all of a sudden attaches more things. And then before long, you forget the root of what the upset was, you know? And a lot of it is just the wheels turning up here in meaning, the meaning that we create out of that versus actually what happened. Like, you know, how you made me feel in that occurrence that I didn't communicate. And then it's another one, then it's another one. And it just builds.
Right.
And more likely, if it's something that you're fearful or something that you're saddened by, you're less likely to actually communicate that.
Mm-hmm. And then what you're saying, Brian, also is the fact that we depend on the other people in our relationships to fulfill a void that only we can do within ourselves, right? Yeah. So we get in these codependent relationships, and okay, I've got a hole and you've got a hole, but we do these things, but we never take care of the holes within ourselves. And so what do? We wind up going to short-term gratifications. We go through ignorance and all this other stuff. But ultimately, just having that honest and open communication, I look at it this way: you got to talk about what your deal breakers are. And I really want to compliment you, Brian, on sitting there saying, "Hey, no, that's a deal breaker for me." And my wife did that to me too when we were dating. We were first started dating early on. Great chemistry, really got along, and she brought up the topic of kids. And I'm like, nah, no, I'm not a kid person. And she's 10 years younger than me. So mind you, when we met, I was 32, she was 22. Okay. I mean, come on. That's what I was having fun and everything. And also it was like, kids, what? Huh? What? No. So we actually broke up, and I'm proud of her. I'm proud of her for that, because she's like, you know what? That's a deal breaker for me. Remember that. And I was so proud of her. I'm like, you know what? Okay. You know, great to meet you. And then a couple of months later, we used to karaoke together. And then one night I was by myself and I was kind of missing her and everything. And I was like, oh, my friends were going to go to karaoke. So I went to karaoke and she was there. And, you know, the whole thing of she was getting picked up on. So we remember it differently, but it's cute. I think that, you know, this guy was hassling her. So I went over there and kind of like pretended to be the boyfriend. And so he would leave her alone. And then long story short, we wound up waking up in the morning. She's like, what do you want for breakfast? And I'm like, okay, what are we going to do about this kid thing? And so, you know, we decided it's just going to be just like a booty call thing or what. But ultimately, at that point, I really started taking a hard look at my life and realizing that this was the person for me. And I was like, you know, kids. And everybody always said that I would be a great father. But looking back on my history, my mom's abuse that she had, the abuse that I went through, the belief system that my mom had put in my mind, don't be a parent because, you know, violence and everything else runs in our family and all this other bullshit. And I thought about it. I'm like, you know what? Okay, when I'm 40 and you're 30, we'll have a kid. And so we made that arrangement. We wound up getting married in 2007. And lo and behold, everything came along. And I was like, okay. And I was surprised up until that point that I had never been a dad before. I was waiting for somebody to come knocking on my door and go, hey, you know, remember that night that you don't remember? Yeah, well, guess what? I'm your kid or something. And so we went through that process of trying to have a baby.
It still can happen, you know, but.
What was that?
So that still could happen, but anyways, I said it could still happen, but anyways.
Yeah, well, and actually, no, not anymore. No, we actually, long story short, to let you know, and I'm not sure if you even actually know this, Lynn. You know, we tried to conceive naturally, and nothing was working. I was like, oh my God, you know, when we first like really decided, okay, we're gonna have a baby. I'm like, oh my God, it's gonna happen, and in 2 weeks, I'm gonna be a dad. You know, and that's funny that I thought that. But it didn't happen in years. And then we were like, okay, let's just take a break from trying. And then we went to a fertility specialist and found out we both had problems. And I thought it wasn't me. So I found out that I had issues, and we went and did IVF. We did the in vitro fertilization thing, borrowed a bunch of money to be able to do that. That didn't work. And then ultimately, I don't know if you know this, but we wound up going through the adoption process. And that's how I got my son, Jackson. So I was like 47, 48 years old. And I was like ready to have the conversation with her because she was 38, approaching 40. I'm like, hey, you know, we said when 30 and 40, not 40 and 50. Come on. I don't want to be that old man with a kid and everything and put that kid through it. And then the way the world aligns, I was camping one day and all of a sudden I get this phone call from her, and she was in Chicago on business. She's like, oh my God, the adoption agency just called. And I said, oh, wow. Okay. And I was thinking about having a conversation with her saying, okay, listen, I'm not going to be the old person. And she's like, oh my God, they called. And we had been with a few different adoption agencies. And because I think of our age and everything else, we weren't the prime selected people. And she's all, we got picked. And I'm literally sitting at my campsite going, I was just about to tell you, like, in a couple of days, like, I'm not going to do this. We can't do this to ourselves. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Inside. And she goes, here's the best part. She's due in 10 days. And she lives here in California. And I'm like,
wow,
what? I'm going to be a dad in 10 days because we wanted a newborn.
that's
And
awesome.
all the research that I'd done on adoptions and everything else, I'm like, the adoptions can cancel at the last second, because I was actually supposed to be placed for adoption by my mom, and she wound up keeping me. And that's actually the title of my book. It's Just You and Me, Kid. So she decided to keep me. So I know how those things happen. And obviously the long and short of it, we've had Jackson for 4 years and he's been absolutely amazing. But again, going back to your point, Brian, we have to say what our deal breakers are. We have to say what it is that we expect. And also in that process, also what we're willing to let go of too. Because I've seen people like, well, I have to have this and I have to have this and he has to be this, or she has to be this and she has to be this. I'm like, if you're looking for the perfect person, you're going to be perfectly miserable for the rest of your life. So yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
And that's what's really important. I think. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say it's really important that we're having this discussion, because Valentine's Day is coming, and so many people do the wrong freaking thing because it's Valentine's Day and propose or get in a relationship and not have these communications. And I think this is what's really important. What we're doing right now is telling people, shit, don't do something wrong until you have that communication, or you're going to have an effed up relationship and you're just going to, you're making your life miserable. So I think it's great we're having these conversations. And what were you going to say, Brian?
I know that Pamela popped up with a statement just a little bit ago. And it got me to be thinking about, like, okay, when you're in the day-to-day with your partner or anybody, it's like, okay, a conversation to clean something up is a lot different than an argument, right? In my mind, it's like, okay, a conversation is like, hey, when we were out to dinner, you made me feel this way. You clean it up, you move on without any hurt feelings, right? But then if something escalates to an argument or something, now it's not only probably that occurrence plus all the other ones built up into it. So just a distinction that popped out from what she shared in her comments.
And you want to read this one, Brian?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Great point, Brian. It does require a lot of communication. Most of us have filters, though, so we have to be aware of those for sure. It definitely can take some work to do that. I also find some people say they want one thing up front to keep you around when they know what you want to hear, but they really don't have those intentions. Yeah, I got that.
Yeah. For sure.
But I also think that there's ways of challenging that in terms of their integrity, their respect, their likability. Somebody's true character is going to show up more times than not, whatever that may be.
I don't know what this is.
When you were the stripper.
When you were the stripper, just to clarify.
Pam is referring back to my old days.
Oh,
thanks,
okay. Oh, you see, thanks, Pam, for bringing that up.
Oh, okay.
He's such a doll.
Who's such a doll? Not me.
Yes.
Nah.
Pam was going to buy herself some flowers for St.
I loved it how Lynn perked up when she heard the word stripper. Like.
Well,
was that in Vegas? I gotta ask, Christopher. Were you in Vegas? Did you do Chippendale?
What? How much research did you do on me? Are you going to show me another video?
No.
Why do I look familiar?
No, I'm just. Yeah.
Did you dollar bills?
No.
Do you recognize his stage name, Lynn?
Yeah.
Remember it? Like.
No, I did know some of the Chippendale guys because I was in the lingerie business, and so they used to. Never mind. But were you at Vegas, Chippendales?
No. I got the name Stripper Chris because I was actually taught to dance by a stripper. And
shut up, Brian.
I swear to God, it's a true story. I had never learned how to dance, and so we had befriended. My wife and I had befriended this couple who needed a place to stay for like a month, and so and getting to know him, I didn't know, I think his name was Tim, actually, if I remember that. Tim and Gina. Oh my God, that's crazy. I knew her, but I didn't know her boyfriend. And this guy was kind of like just a weird dude, but he knew how to dance really good. And I'm like, I didn't realize he was a stripper. I didn't know that. Well, that's what he did. And so he would teach me how to do this. And so I would go out there. So whenever I don't know if it still happens because I haven't been drunk at a dance club in a while, but whenever I get super inebriated, I start dancing like a stripper. It's stripper Chris. And now I do it more as a fun thing, but now my body's getting old, so I don't know if I could do it as well.
Pam says she goes,
I was laughing because Christopher said someone might come around saying he was a dad. LOL. He was a fake stripper. He has a fake stripper story.
And I'm still, I don't know, that may happen, but yeah, I mean, life is just a ball. Life, you got to have fun with life, and you got to have the people that are around you that want to have that fun. And I think to your point originally, Lynn, is that, that's communication you have to have with people in the get-go. That's one thing that my wife and I had the conversation about, was like, okay, listen, being married, I don't want to go shopping with you every other weekend. I don't want to do these things. And, we both have our individuality. So having that communication up front and knowing what it is that you want is great, but also being able to let the other things go. And that's something that I've had issues with in my life because of who I am. I'm Mr. Motivator. I'm Mr. Unstoppable. I'm Mr. Let's not have any excuses. So in my expectations, that when I was younger, my expectations is that this is going to rub off and everybody around me is going to want to do the same thing, that they're going to see, by the stories I tell and by the people that I help overcome the same exact issue, that they're going to want to do those things. And so I've had to learn that it's everybody else's journey. Even for the people you love closest to you, sometimes you still can be with them, but sometimes you have to let them be on their own journey and be there to help them when they need it the most. Whereas I think I used to be like, okay, there's something wrong with you. There's something broken. I can't fix it. So I'm going to move on. And in some situations, you just need to kind of just, be there for that person and go through that journey with them as well. What do you guys think about that?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Of the things,
I agree. I agree.
Go ahead, Lynn. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. This time it's your turn, my
just
friend.
by what you're sharing, Christopher, one of the things that pops out in my brain is that how one of my exes, when I lived down in Illinois, how she got me to believe that I was the one that didn't make her happy. And then after stepping away from it, relationship ending, that couldn't have been further from the truth. That you can't make anybody anything. They have to want it and do it themselves first.
One of the greatest questions I've ever heard was from my coach, and it's sitting over here. It says, "What?" And you said this, Brian. What am I making this to mean about me? Mm-hmm. And then when somebody else puts the fact that you're not making me happy, you're not doing these things, my first question is, did you communicate that to me? Is that what you said you needed? Mm-hmm. Right? Sometimes people will put that off on us, and no, it's like, no, you have to own that. You have to go fix your own deep core root problems.
Yeah.
Number
one, it's like you need to do something that you're not able to do, right? Because I'm not them and they're not me, but also though they didn't communicate it. So it's kind of like it's double, right? Number one, you didn't communicate it. Number two, I can't do something for you that you're not willing to do yourself.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. And we're all a mirror of ourselves. Go ahead.
Oh yeah,
Chris.
That's true. Actually, Scott said that in the last interview. But I was going to ask you guys, since you're talking about relationships, have either one of you read The 5 Love Languages?
Yes.
Yep. It's been a while, but yeah.
Wasn't that illuminating?
And that's, it is. And that right there should tell you that if you're not a vocal person or you're not a physical person and you don't like those qualities in that particular person, you can't expect them to change because that's the way they want to be communicated to. If you're not willing to say, okay, I need to articulate more, or I need to be more physical, or all the different languages, then that should be a sign that maybe they're not the right one for you.
I remember,
go ahead.
No, go ahead, Lynn.
No, I'm done. No, you go. That's because we're in sync.
Over the holidays, I remember, when it came to gift giving, given different love languages, is that for me, I almost died in a car accident. And to me, I look at life a lot differently in terms of like giving gifts. Like for me, I would rather spend time with people or rather share an experience with them versus like a physical, tangible gift. And that didn't work with an ex. She felt insulted because I wouldn't buy gifts. And I'm like, sorry, but And I've opened up since then, but it was just something that she could not understand or wanted to understand, that I'm just not I don't give gifts like, hey, here's a thing. I would rather go out to dinner or go on a bed and breakfast weekend or something that we share together versus just here's this thing. And that was a huge thing that came out of the love languages, book, and going through the exercises and stuff like that.
Beautiful. Yeah. I mean, it's so massively important. We don't even realize we're speaking different languages and have different needs. And that's half the problem also, is we don't know how to communicate our needs. When we sit there and think about I'm always big on going back to the childhood conditioning aspect of life, the 0 to 5, the 0 to 7 age years of what we learned about ourselves, and the fact that we're never taught how to openly communicate our honest feelings and our vulnerabilities and our fears and everything else. We're just expected to have it all figured out and and we fake it till we make it. But having those raw, vulnerable conversations are massively important to be able to do, because you get out of things what you put into it. And if you go into things with this, rose-colored glasses, oh, it'll all work out. It's like, I know people who are belligerent about having those conversations up front. Like, they have a checklist. They almost have them sign a contract, which I think is a little too much. But I also think making sure that you're on the same page with the big things. What are the big things in life? And I couldn't agree more with you, Brian. I used to love giving gifts and stuff like that. And I used to love like dreaming about myself. Like, what do I want to get? What possession do I want to get? And I do this exercise with my coaching clients. And part of it is that we identify what years, what decades we have left in our life. And then in those decades, what are the big things we want to accomplish in those decades? So like for me right now, I'm in the 50 to 60 decade. I got 70 to 80 or 60 to 70, 70 to 80. And the way technology is going, I'm going to start adding columns, because I think we're going to live much, much longer than we currently are based on the way technology is going to be going. So in realizing that, I noticed that as I've gotten older, it's more about those experiences, Brian. It's more about trips. It's more about, having situations with my son or my family or other people, impacting people, starting a nonprofit organization. Now it's not about having 23 cars in my garage and having all this other stuff. Now it's about those moments, because that's the legacy that we get to live. We get to leave behind is, how did people won't always remember. I just heard this again. People won't always remember what you told them, but they're going to remember how they made you feel. And just from what you guys are doing, and just from being on Lynn's show just a little bit ago, you guys make people feel special. You guys make people feel awesome. So don't ever give that up.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. It's been an honor to have him here. Yeah. Look at that. Time is.
I'm like,
we've got to
seriously. I was going to come over for like 7 minutes, and then because you're like, oh, come on my show over here, and I was like, okay, you guys.
Lynn and I have that control on people.
Well, I'm just so blessed with Brian, because Brian and I could be so opposite at times, but where his heart is, I mean, he's 41 years old and he likes to be with older people, thank God. But, it's just that he and I I always say the yin and yang thing and always mess that up, but it really is like, and everybody tells me our chemistry is just awesome. We're goofy. We just either dance. I mean, like whatever. I tell some weird, hellacious stories. I mean, it's such a blessing what we're doing and what we plan to do. Eventually, I want to actually officiate a wedding with him, like somebody's wedding, like, because he does wedding. He tell him about the wedding thing.
It's all the planning, production. Every couple has a love story, but it's very unfortunate that even if somebody gets married, it doesn't necessarily mean that their wedding is personal, even though their name is on an invitation or whatever. But when guests leave a wedding, do they know the couple more than what they got there, right? Ooh. And I'm a deep psychology guy. That's what I studied in school as one of my degrees, and it's all about the narrative of the couple. I've shared this on the show before, and it's just such a random and weird question, but it's like, I couldn't imagine any guest saying, boy, that wedding was way too personalized. It's a ceiling that nobody taps. If anything, it's like, we just hope it goes well, or we just hope people leave happy, right? Mm-hmm. There's no abundance in that mindset. I get it that there's stress, there's anxiety. It's literally like you're putting thousands of dollars, maybe the bride and groom's contribution plus family, they're putting in the center of a table and they're lighting it on fire. And they just hope it turns out well, right? And but it starts with the couple. I'm not right for everybody, and that's okay. But if a couple is willing to dig in and do homework and share with me their love story, I can do a lot of great things with it, but it starts with that.
And what
Yeah.
I don't,
what's
it's
awesome
amazing to me is that like, I don't have all the answers, but if a couple is willing to open up about who they are to me, that's where the answers lie in flushing them out of them, but they got to trust that person. They got to see what it's all about first. So.
Beautiful.
And he happened to tell me and he just happened to tell me about a story about a couple of this guy who was like, hey, can I take a guitar, smash it? And I'm messing this up, but I do that a lot. Smash it. And can I pick her up? And can we go into the room that way? And he's like, yeah, why not? And so I told him, I want to dig up some, well, not dig up, that's not the right words, but you'll get the gist. I want him to tell me some stories like that, and I want to showcase them and celebrate them on our show here, Real and Raw. That would be so freaking cool, because, that's my creative side, I guess.
I have no, on a professional means is that the world of theater, the world of weddings, the world of a blank canvas is wide open to whatever. Now, will it take more effort to do something more specialized and personalized for a couple? Yes. Mm-hmm. But who wouldn't want that journey if you're going to do the work regardless, And I have no interest in what weddings are. Like there's, depending on where you live in the country and overseas, is that weddings kind of go in the same way where it's like we do this here, we do this there, we do that there. There's no rules or laws that says it has to go that way. It's just what people accept, right? Mm-hmm. And it's my duty to disrupt all that. That if that's the way we want it to be done, great. But let's add a flair to it. Let's keep people guessing. Let's make it unpredictable. So it stands out in people's minds for a long time.
I love this, Brian. I love out of the box stuff. What's been the funnest wedding that you've been at, and what's your idea of like the ideal wedding?
Fun weddings, I would have to think a little bit more on, but for me, the ideal situation, and it's always been with me after I'd done one of these, is that in the Midwest, just as a point of reference, is that weddings start on Thursday and they end on Sunday, right? It's like almost like a full week deal. Okay. Wow. Like 4 or 5 days. I know that on the coasts of East and West Coast, it's a little bit different, right? Where they, like on the West Coast, they're done in like 5 hours.
I was going to say, 4 hours, we're good,
In the Midwest, people are waiting on happy hour to start. They got to get warmed up for a couple of days before the wedding happens. My ideal situation or context would be is that there's a ceremony on a Saturday at 11 or noon, and then cocktail hour starts at maybe 1 or 1:30 and goes until 3. There's dinner until maybe 4:30. There's dancing until 8 or 9. And then anybody that has children, there's already a reception set up for the kids in the water park, for a host hotel. And then for everybody that's adults, there's a rooftop area with appetizers and drinks. So you're just using the day in a better way than to just have it be like there's gaps throughout a day, which is a cardinal sin in planning. You never want to have a gap, that makes people bored, restless, or whatever. So does that answer your question in terms of the ideal?
No, I was just curious based on what you were saying about how to design a wedding. I love that. That was one thing that my wife and I agreed on, because my first marriage was in the Crystal Cathedral. It used to be a very popular church. You would know about it. The Crystal Cathedral. We got married in the Arboretum right next to us. So it was a huge wedding. We had like 6 or 7 groomsmen and brides. It was massively huge. It was in the middle of July. It was July 23rd, 1988. It was hot as hell. And everything about it, I had to wear tails and a hat and gloves. And it was just everything I had to do. Okay, Chris, you have to be here for this time. You have to be here for this time. You have to do this. You have to do this picture. You have to do this pose. Da, da, da. And it wasn't until like 10 o'clock at night when everybody was liquored up and the bar was open, I was like, oh my God, I finally get to relax and be who I am. Yeah. And my wife and I, when we were talked about getting married, and I said, listen, I'm just going to be frank with you. Again, just being upfront. I'm not getting married in a church. I'm not getting married in church. I want to get married on the beach, and preferably wearing no shirt and a pair of board shorts and heavy metal playing in the background with a keg of Jack Daniels and a bunch of my friends there. I just want it to be about us bonding our life and making a commitment to each other, not about what fucking font do we use on the thank you card that goes inside the other thing with a piece of tissue shit that nobody cares about. Nobody cares about it. It's just crazy. And so we wound up doing a destination wedding. We wound up going to Jamaica. We did the,
Nice.
you want this package or this package? And we did that package. Bingo. Those are your invitations. Those are the things. And during the day, I hung out with her brother and her brother-in-law. And we went to the pool. We drank, went to the beach. A couple hours before I was about to do the deed, it was like, I think we got married at about 6 o'clock on the sunset, and stopped drinking, went and got changed. I wore a pair of casual pants and a loose fitting Tommy Bahama shirt, no shoes, and was out there. And we actually just watched the wedding video a couple of days ago. It was kind of cool. And after that, we had a party, and it was just great. We gave people a year and a half to save up for it. We said, hey, we want you guys to be a part of this. And we just had a blast. And afterwards, up until that point, we had a blast with our wedding party. A couple of days later, we had a blast, and everybody went on their merry way. And now we still get, are you guys going to do your 20th at Jamaica? We want to go back and do that again, because we made it an experience. Like we were saying all along, life is supposed to be an experience. It's not supposed to be a responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
Or a duty.
I love it.
Yeah,
I don't know
there's so much. Go ahead, Lynn. Go ahead.
I just want to do this real quick. I don't know if my sister-in-law is still here, but she had put here that Valentine's Day, your brother's wedding anniversary, so it's different for her. So I just want to acknowledge her and love her for Valentine's Day. Send her some good vibes, you guys. I really appreciate that. So, anyways, but go on. We're even past our time here. Yeah. But
I was just gonna say one more thing is that it goes to my core, and to me, it's everything about unleashing a couple's love story, but also though telling them that they don't have to settle. That there are no rules and laws and just what society has put upon people that their wedding has to be this, or, it's like, we just hope it goes well, right? That's a scarcity mentality versus an abundance. And in my mind, there's such an opportunity to rewrite the script, to disrupt the chain. You get in you go out to the mail and you get an invitation. You don't even need to know who it's for, when it is, or whatever. And your brain is already turning in terms of what it's going to look like, what time of year, I got to get a flight.
What's it going to cost?
Or it's boring, or we leave early, or can you imagine that last wedding we were at? It wasn't done very well. All of this is turning even without even looking at who it is, and it just blows my doors off when professionals don't challenge the norm, when they don't. They're only willing to do what they're going to do, but they'll gladly accept payment for it without challenging themselves and about what they can do to define what a wedding is. It just blows my doors off.
Bam, mic drop.
Absolutely. Yep. Jules said, you want to read this, Brian?
Sure. Funny story. Our wedding was great and fun. So fun that your brother said he married Cinderella, but woke up with Amy Winehouse. Oh my.
Yeah. So anyways, you guys, this has been amazing. So let's wrap this up with what did you get out of this, and or I'll start and then you guys can go. And basically I was going to say, moving forward, you really have to, after the fun and the first, getting to know each other and everything looks kumbaya and everything's fun. But then you got to get real. You got to get real. Where is this relationship going? What's it going to look like? What do you expect? Are you happy with it? Or do you have the communication out there? Because, if you were going to get married tomorrow, or if they were going to die tomorrow, were those little things so petty that you're going to hold them against somebody? Some things are not worth fighting for. Some things are not worth being by yourself. Some things are worth being by yourself. But those are the realities you have to ask yourself before you move over and forward in your relationship. And with Valentine's coming, it's sweet. Everybody, gets into the commercialism of buying and doing all that shit. But once the presents and all the circumstances are gone, truly, is that what your relationship going to be? Just looking forward to the commercial and the calendar to tell you this is the day you're going to be loved and be happy? Because if it is, I'm not signing up for that shit no more. That's why I haven't written my list of what I want, because I know when I write my list of what I want in a relationship, I'll be damned. I know I'm going to have it, but I'm not ready for that yet. I'm not ready for the relationship. I'm not lying. But do I want to just have sex just to have sex? I don't like that either. So I'm going to have to make a decision here really soon, people. But anyhow, enough said on me. Brian?
Let's explore that, Brian.
So
let's have another show after this. Let's talk about Lynn's lack of desire just to have sex for the sake of sex.
Calling all men of Montana.
Hey, wait. You two don't. Well, Brian knows, but you don't know. for 15 years, I owned my own pleasure parties here in Billings, Montana. I'm okay. Thank you.
Okay.
So anyways,
I'm a visual person. Thank you. I appreciate that, Lynn.
So Brian,
Lynn just dropped the mic herself.
Boom.
So
I got toys for days.
In all different colors,
shapes and sizes. You know
Look
what?
at her. Now she's
We should
blushing.
just do a show.
Wiener basket.
All we need to do is when she throws that out there, all we need to do is reel it in a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yep. Set the hook.
Oh,
set
shut
the hook.
up.
So for me, it's two things. Self-expression. Never lose it, because for me, I
Again, you
had
see
it
what I
in
was
2000. What's that? What's that, Lynn?
I said again, see what I'm saying? Self-expression.
My self-expression I'm talking about is a little bit different than lingerie parties. Anyhow, is the self-expression from a standpoint that I had it in 2014. I lost it for a series of years. I went through a breakup, the woman I thought I was going to marry, and it's coming back. And it's like I told myself after rehabilitating and all of that with therapy that I'm never going to lose that again. I'm never going to sacrifice who I am. You either like me or you don't. Number two is live your truth. Is that you have to be so in touch with what your heart says and what your mind says and how you feel. And if there's any inkling where any of those are not in alignment, you need to have conversations.
Boom.
Absolutely.
Boom.
Before
Guys,
Chris
this has been.
check this out.
We got
Pam
nipple
says-
jelly.
Nipple jelly.
No, wait. That'll be the next comment. Pam says, you guys are hilarious. I love it.
I
Thanks
love
for
it.
being real. And then my sister-in-law comes out with, she still
Oh, wow.
No, she just goes to the refrigerator and gets some grape jam. That's it. She's out of nipple jelly. She just goes and gets grape jam.
This is, amen, bro.
hasn't.
Well,
Ladies and
now
gentlemen, on Real and Raw, we're going to be talking about nipple jelly and how to avoid shitty weddings.
And this
Go ahead.
and this
Lynn.
is why I look. Thank you, Robert, for noticing. That's why I appear young and celebrate life, because that's right. And I'm 55, so there you go.
The more we talk
Okay.
about Lynn and her business, the more it opens up to all the products in that,
I know. What
Hey.
else we got? Uh-huh.
Anyways, I know Christopher is really going to want to go down the pike here. So, Christopher,
I can talk about
take on
anything.
the show.
I can talk
I
about
know,
anything.
I love it.
Most of my friends are girls or women. Most of my target demographics are women. So I have heard literally everything. So nothing makes me blush, from periods to everything, just to childbirth. Everything. Which I'm pleased to know. What's my take?
Yeah.
In relationships overall is number one, don't go to a relationship expecting it to fix you. Right. So many people are looking, they're not feeling fulfilled within themselves. They're not feeling, whatever it is that they might need to feel fulfilled and feel present and own who it is that they are and be happy with who it is they are. Don't go into a relationship expecting to get fixed or expecting to find some sort of savior in that, or somebody that's going to save you. You have to go into it as a strong individual yourself. And so my recommendation is to always do the work. And I love how you said that, Brian. Go to therapy. People are surprised. I've gone to therapy. I will still go to therapy if I need to. I know I need that objective party to sit there and say, Chris, you're full of shit. You're being stupid. Because I can do all those games in my mind too. I've read all the books. I can sit there and pontificate and say, well, this is meaning this. And I could do that. But you need a third party to sit there and say, no, you have the wrong perspective. And I've had some brilliant psychiatrists in my life that have asked me just one or two questions that have reshaped what it is that I was working on. So yeah, relationships are opportunities. And the last thing I will end with this, because I gave this advice to one of my coaching clients the other day. And it's really this: we spend our day, we get up in our morning and we get ready for our day and we do all the things that we need to do. We deal with the shitty customers and all the people on the road, all the things that frustrate and agitate us. And then we come home. And what type of person are we when we get home? Are we the loving person that is thankful that our family is there waiting for us and has made dinner and has maybe cleaned up, or the kid is excited to tell us about what they did in school today and the dog is happy to see us? Do we walk in and go, oh, the day's been shitty and da, da, da. And do we come and shit all over the people that we love the most? when we've just given our best to the people who don't give a shit about us. So my advice to everybody is to make sure that you're tending your garden at home, you're watering your garden at home, you're planting your seeds at home, you're trimming the things that the dead leaves off the plants. You know, I use that as an analogy. We have to make sure we're taking care of our own stuff, because it goes back to the grass is always greener, but the grass is always greener where you water it. And that's my final thought on that. This has been awesome, guys. I mean, I really didn't intend on being here for your entire show, but thank you. You guys are awesome. I've seen your show before, and I do love your chemistry. That's what I love about Pam and I. We have that same chemistry, and Scott and I, we have that same chemistry. So finding those people that can riff on you, that have a yin and yang, that's the fun part of life. And I just love you guys for being out there and being open and not being, okay, what are people going to say? Because obviously you guys have a crew that are following you, and there's 7.5 billion people on the planet. We're all going to find our tribe. So never give up.
I love you. I love you, man. You're my brother. I'm going to keep in contact with you more often. So Jules says, love you guys. This has been fun and an amazing week.
Thank you, Julie.
You know, I'm finally, and Pam said, love you guys. We love you too, Pam. You know,
love you, Pam.
I had the privilege of actually meeting Pam and Ken at the same time when I had to stand in front of a stage of over 500 people to introduce Ken Walls. And so, but Pam, all we did was smile at each other, and I hugged her. Like, I just knew she was like somebody that was going to be in my life. I mean, we don't need words between us. And that's what I really want to emphasize to people. If the people you're around, the quality of people you're around just rub you wrong, stop being raw that way and go in the tribe where you can just be joyous and happy. That will alleviate so many damn things in your life that you have no idea. And I'm just glad I'm in that season of my life, and that all the girls love Christopher. Yep. Yeah. So
some of the boys do too, Pam. Some of the boys do too.
So no, I
had that experience not too long ago.
Oh, really? Ooh,
yeah, we'll talk about that some other time.
How nice. That'll be another show for some other time.
Yeah.
It might have to be just when we want to get online and talk about it. But anyways, we usually have an action step here. So Brian, you want to close it out with?
Yeah, so our action step, and thank you to all of our viewers. Christopher, very nice meeting you, and thank you for being with us today. Definitely. And for everybody catching the replay, we're just grateful that you're a part of our group and you tune in and take your time. So the action step or question is, what does the long term of a relationship look like to you? That's the question for today. If you want to do some of the mental work and look at it in your life, what does long term mean to you in a relationship? It could be in personal relationships. It could be in intimate. It could be in business relationships. That's the question we have for you today.
Oh man, Brian, I know I pulled a fast one bringing Christopher here, but yeah. I think you would agree this couldn't have been any better, right?
Yeah, it was great. So cool. Christopher, I need to acknowledge you and thank you for your time. Very nice meeting you, and I can't wait to get to know you better.
Definitely, Brian. No, my thoughts exactly. Like I said, I watched you guys before, and I was like, I love the fact that you guys have the chemistry and it's real and raw. So yeah, anytime you need an extra guest or you want somebody to pontificate with you or whatever, I'm always happy to do it. I love you guys. I think you guys are amazing, and thank you again for having me on. I'm really truly grateful for this show and the previous show.
And thank you. And, he's one of our stalkers that never took time just to say, hi, guys. But hopefully now he'll let us know when he's watching. So, because your vibe will just make us more sillier when you're not here. And I think we thrive when we know certain people are watching us. It's like, oh, we got our peeps here. We don't give a shit about anybody. No, we care about everybody. But you know what I'm saying. Yeah. Right. So anyways, thank you so much. This was a true gift you gave to me. And I truly, I love the fact that you're going to watch our video over and over again, because I know I'm going to watch it again, because it was one of my best shows. And I mean, I love everybody on my show, but just the connection we have is just amazing. And I can't wait to look at it again. So if you guys just will wait right there, you guys, thank you so much. We are over. Brian is on vacation and I've stepped on his toes with some extra time. So thanks again for that, Brian. So hold on, everybody. Peace out. Bitches.